Okay, welcome everybody to the Sunday night chart chat where we discuss technical analysis of stocks which have that 10x to 100x moon rocket potential. Of course, read the disclaimer below. Everything here is purely opinion only. Nothing. There's no corporate information here. This is not official company news. Purely opinion based on charts. Nothing to do with any factual information from the companies themselves. And if you were just tuning in for the first time, make sure you press the like and subscribe button. Even if you don't know what the channel is about, just make sure you press that button. Okay. With that said, let's talk about some big themes. I think, kind of the big thing we've been talking about for the last, let's call it 6-8 weeks, has been the bottoming of the disruptive innovation sector, some of our micro cap stocks. So we're starting to see, this thing happen. It's taking a while. It's an evolving situation. We're getting there right now. Let me dive into this. Okay, let me just take this off here so you can see it better. And okay, so what are we looking at? We are looking at Teladoc right now, which is, again, it's one of the disruptive innovation stocks. This is the 1 week chart right here. If you've noticed, we're bouncing off. This thing has had a very strong bounce off of this kind of support level in the $50 range. $50 range. You have a turnaround happening right here, and this is on the weekly chart. We're still now. MACD is crossing over, so this is actually bullish. We're still below the moving average, but I would say the odds are like 95%, 90% that we have seen the bottom in Teladoc. You got kind of this inverse head and shoulders bottom happening here on the daily chart, and we are actually above the 50-day moving average on the daily chart. So what does that mean? That's actually very bullish for the disruptive innovation stocks. Teladoc has kind of been one of those, it's the kind of that canary in the coal mine. If you look at it, it's been really leading the way for a lot of the stocks that we're involved with. You can just kind of see on the chart exactly how it's behaved. Pretty much, if you look at any of the stocks we're dealing with right now, the charts are not too dissimilar. By the way, let me just pull up a quick chart of a former client, but I happen to be holding stock here. I'm kind of a bit of a bag holder, so to speak. Fans Unite. I think we've seen the bottom here. You got this massive long base. And for the first time, we're breaking above the moving average. We have had 2 closes above the moving average. It's still a little bit early. But I think we're going to see a nice move there. And that's kind of one of those bellwethers. It's one of those bellwethers. So it's just, this chart is kind of giving you kind of a preview of what we're going to be seeing over the next few months. I think with Fans United, I think is going to do well. I think that's going to come back. I wish these guys would, do a little bit of professional promotion. I mean, they're really like, they're a little bit behind the eight ball, so to speak. Is that the right word? But yeah, they need to promote. They need to start doing some promotion here. The chart's looking good. I think they've built a base. This is the time when they got to step on the gas. I mean, this is the time to do it. Okay, so I showed you the Teladoc chart. Let me kind of go into ARK, which is, let's go through our bellwethers. Here we go, ARK, ARKK. Okay, here we go. So this is the daily chart. We're starting to see for the first time in quite a while a break above the moving average. again, you're looking at this pattern here, which looks kind of like a inverse head and shoulders might be happening. It looks vaguely bullish for the first time in quite a long time. Again, you're bouncing off that support. So I think, again, it goes into our thesis of, the bottom is in for emerging growth stocks. I think we're seeing it. It started to happen. I think we saw the bottom March 15th, which is interesting. There's kind of a symmetry here. The top in the market was, when did we see the top? We saw the top last year, right around February 15th. Yeah, hey, Mike Hunt, great name. Okay, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, hang on, let me just put this up here, and let me just change up something here. Stand by 1 second. Okay. By the way, let me just take this opportunity to mention our Telegram channel, which has all the good stuff on it first. Okay, so ARK Innovation, we're seeing the bottom. I don't think this thing is going any lower. We might, you know what, it might kind of fool around in this area a little bit, but I think the bottom is in. I think March 15th was the bottom. Again, February 14th, 15th last year, the Valentine's Day, that was the top in the market. If you look, everything kind of topped out back then. Let me actually go back into, let's see, what was the peak in, yeah, there you go. The peak in ARK was right around then, right? February 12th, Valentine's Day last, so you talk about 13 months ago, and now we're seeing the bottom finally starting to, that top in stocks was kind of like, it took a while. It was kind of a little bit of a rolling top. You kind of didn't even notice what was happening until it was almost too late. And here we are again. We're at the bottom. So things are, it's, it all goes in cycles. Everything comes back. Everything is goes in these cycles. So that is what is going on. You're welcome. Okay, there we go. What are you saying? I'm not good looking? Is that what you're saying, Mike? All right. Okay, so ARK is looking good. Bottom line is, again, I don't care anything about ARK, but it is a bellwether for our micro cap stocks, next super stocks. Let's take a look at another one here. Tesla, of course, big bellwether. Okay, so this chart is looking a little bit, it's getting like a little bit, it's almost like it might be getting a little bit out of hand. I don't think this kind of had this gap. It's getting a little bit crazy here. We talked about the bottom in Tesla back in over here, a couple of weeks ago, actually really a month ago. Almost a month ago, you're seeing kind of this inverse head and shoulders bottom happening. I kind of don't like this chart pattern. It's a little bit too euphoric, like almost like that, that cartoon with Wile E. Coyote going off the cliff. The car goes off the cliff, it's still up in the air, and then I'm not saying it's going to crash, but I just don't like. I don't like the way this looks, to be quite honest with you. Although, if you look at the 1 hour chart, I think we could see a nice move this week. I think we might see some crazy blowout move this week. It's very possible that Tesla could have a massive blowout this week. It's some of these things are kind of contradictory. Let's go to the NASDAQ. Another bellwether here. Again, so, it really does look like we've seen the bottom. We've been above the 50-day moving average for quite a while. But, again, it's a little bit, it kind of reminds me of the Tesla chart. It's a little bit, it's weird. Some of these things are just, they kind of contradictory here. I mean, the NASDAQ overall market looks, I think we're going to see a move up. The daily chart looks a little, a little sketchy, but I think we're in a good position. So bottom line is the positive tailwinds are starting to happen. So now is the look. The reality is this, a lot of people say, oh, these Wall Street Report or next super stocks, all this stuff only works in a bull market. Oh, these guys got lucky, whatever. No, here's kind of the this is the absolute reality. We do need a bull market to get these 10 bagger or 50 bagger moves, to get these moves where you see stocks increase 5,000% in 4 months, like you saw with CBDT, like you saw with a couple of other stocks. Those 20x, 50x moves in like 4 months. You need a bull market for that. But here's the key thing. In kind of a neutral, the whole kind of strategy, the philosophy is really geared towards, let's call it a neutral market. We don't need a bull market, but we don't. A bear market and a very negative risk-off market is not helpful. Let's be very clear about that. But we just need the market to be relatively neutral, the waters to be relatively calm, so that our super stocks have a chance to perform. And even in a normal market like, I don't know, let's call it 2018, 19, that's the kind of a recent period. It's very normal for us to have like 5xers, 500% increase, 200, a double, a triple, 5x, no problem with these stocks. A 10x, absolutely. It takes 12 months. In a bull market, it happens a little bit quicker. I think right now, the period we're in right now is actually a phenomenal period. Right now, we have ground floor opportunities. Look, the big problem is, what matters really is when you buy. That's the key thing in anything, whether you're buying, I don't know, real estate, you're buying stocks. You got to kind of buy when, you have a great risk reward ratio where you have an asymmetrical upside. And we talk about it in some of our, I highly recommend you watch the educational videos on our YouTube channel where we talk about the methodology of finding these next super stocks. But in a nutshell, it's important to have something where you have a built-in upside. The upside is built in. It's undervalued right now, and all you got to do is essentially wait for the market to come back a little bit, and then the upside is essentially built in. You don't need a major bull market for these things to take off. So that's a key thing. And I'm going to talk about a couple of stocks that we have like that. Some of them include pharma drug, PHRX. I know people think it's a crazy penny stock biotech. That stock actually could be, the value could be built in. I mean, that actually could be 25 cents baked into that stock, which means 5x upside minimum. Even Organic Garage. I mean, Organic Garage, I think, has like a 10 bagger built in. It's almost like if you buy OG right now, OGGFF for all the Americans, you're basically, it's almost like somebody's giving you a free gift. This is one of the last free gifts you can get. So the money is made when you buy at the bottom. Look, anybody who's watching our channel last, I don't know, March of 2020, July of 2020 even, you had opportunities to get in on ground floor opportunities, whether it was Imagine AR, Nextech, Cytodyne, one of our biotech 20 baggers. And then, of course, Fans Unite came in along around July of 2020. It was, I think, 17 cents. We had Visby. We had CloudMD. We had a whole bunch of these winners. They came in right at the bottom. Those charts looked really busted. Now, the guys who got in early, who got in on the ground floor, they made money. I mean, they had an opportunity to get in on the ground floor. CBDT, a nickel. Nobody believed CBDT at a nickel. Went up 50 times, went up 250 4 months later. The problem is, if you chase these stocks, those FOMO buyers, the main kind of the great unwashed masses who who came into those stocks, you know, between January and March of last year, they're holding the bag right now. I mean, those people bought at the top, and those stocks have a lot of them have come down. I think, look, I think some of them are going to come back, and there's some great, great, great opportunities. So, the bigly news, I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. I'll give you a hint. I will give you a hint. The bigly news is the bigly news is we have a super stock that is returning. It's a stock that went up 10x. It went up 10x. It was a 10 bag, actually more than 10 bagger. It pulled back, of course. It pulled back, like a lot of these stocks have pulled back. And you know what? This thing has been given up for dead by a lot of people. Very interesting company, and I think we are at a ground floor right now. I was just talking to the CEO last week. This is going to sound crazy. I really believe this could be a 100 bagger. I really believe the stock could be $100 stock. Not in 4 months. It's not going to be in 6 months. Not even in 12 months. But if you maybe in 2 years, it has everything in there where it could be that 100x. However, look, let's be real. Nobody's going to hold on to it for 100x. Most people are going to bail out at when it goes up 10x, 20x. Very difficult to get these 100 baggers. But I think this stock does have that 100x upside. Minimum 10x. So let's get back into our favorite stocks, and then I'll go back to some of the questions. We got some great questions here. I'll address everything. Okay, so let's talk about some of the stocks which I believe this week are set for big moves, bigly moves. Okay, by the way, so OGGFF for all the Americans, Organic Garage. I just want to make one point very, very clear is that, okay, so first of all, what's going on is the thing that we've been talking about for the last, 10 days, 2 weeks. You have right here the pattern. This is the inverse head and shoulders happening. We're above the moving average now. And I mentioned this last week. We're now, I don't know if I mentioned it on a tweet or whatever, but now we have 5 days above the moving average, closing above the moving average. No, wait, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 6. We actually have, out of the last 7 trading sessions, 6 of them have closed above this 50-day moving average, which again, I think the 50-day moving average is a really important thing for anybody in these penny stocks. Again, no matter what I tell you, don't believe anything I tell you. In other words, the thing that is absolutely, you can almost, I don't want to say take it to the bank, but the thing that really matters is the trend. You want to be with the trend. You want to basically run with the trend. So the moving average it's a trend following system. So when you're above, I talked about this before, when you're above the 50-day moving average, you want to be long. When you're below it, you want to be out of it. Again, there's sometimes you have fake outs. It's not easy. This isn't, look, if this was easy, everybody would be a trillionaire by now. Again, even looking at this chart, you can see this fake outs where it pops up above the moving average for 5 days, it crashes below it. You see that happen a couple of times, but most of the time with Origin Foods, Organic Garage, OGGFF, for all the Americans, when it's above that moving average, it tends to have nice runs. I mean, the last time it had a run was, okay, back here again, you had a run from 10 cents to over $1. And again, you had from 30 cents when we got involved, it doubled to 72 cents in a month. So a very fertile environment for a massive move. By the way, great. I highly encourage you to watch the latest interview we did with the management of Organic Garage and some of their new strategic advisors. This guy, Matt, Was it Marston, I believe? Yeah, these guys are putting together a phenomenal team. Um, Look, is it taking a little bit longer than I expected? It is. Because look, let's be real. Everything, we all expect things to happen immediately, but when you have a real business, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. It takes a few months longer. That being said, though, Origin Foods OGGFF. Let me pull up the American chart because the American, the Canadians don't really matter. It's the American buyers, the Americans. So here you got the same thing happening here. And look at this. So since Wall Street Reporter got involved with Origin Foods, you can kind of clearly see what's been going on. You had no volume in the U.S. before that, like zero volume basically. We got involved in October. Boom, right away, massive U.S. trading. And why do I bring this up? Because ultimately, I think two things are important. It's interesting first of all, it's the American market that really makes these stocks really move ultimately. We've seen that with all our big movers. It was really the U.S. buying that got these things going to like massive highs. Because look, the U.S. market, U.S. investors, it's 20 times bigger than Canada. It's like you got 350 million people. Canada's like 2 million people, whatever the number is. So massive market. But what's interesting with Origin Foods is, I think it's a major value. It's very interesting because essentially people look at this. Oh, it's just a couple of grocery stores in Toronto. So why would these guys be getting so much U.S. volume if it was just a provincial, like a little grocery chain? I mean, this is what the naysayers are saying, like on some of these forums. Oh, they just have 4 stores. Oh, it's never going to go anywhere. It's a low growth. Oh, they got the CPG business, which is. Let me tell you something. Origin Foods, these stores, I think these guys could have. Well, look, just watch that interview we did on. Was a Thursday. The latest interview with OGGFF on our website. This thing has a real upside to, 100 million plus market cap very, very easily, which would be the equivalent of $2 plus. I think really 300 million plus, easily 250 on it's a 10 bagger built in. They're doing 30 million in revenues. It's trading at a 25 million value. It's trading really below like private market valuations. It's like ridiculous. This is like the ultimate free gift. Anybody who does not buy the stock is a complete like a retard. Again, we're not giving advice. Let me just want a quick disclaimer here before. I don't want to get into any trouble here. There you go. Nothing here is advice. But yeah, I think this is an amazing, amazing opportunity. Okay, let's go into a couple of others. Pharma drug. I'm going to show you some cheap stocks, right? Right now we have a bunch of ground floor opportunities. I know people don't believe it, just like they never believed CBDT last year when it went from a nickel to 250. Peak Fintech when it went from 35 cents to or 70 post split to $14. 20 bagger. What other stocks do we have there? We've had like so many of them. Yeah, but all the winning stocks we've had, Cytodon, anything, nobody believe this is what they all have in common is this. At the beginning, nobody believes. There's a lot of naysayers, a lot of haters, doubters. Everybody thinks, oh, it's a scam, or it's this, it's that, it's this. And that's the opportunity. That's when the opportunity presents itself. Look, if the thing was absolutely perfect, if everybody said, hey, this is great, unbelievable, that stock would not be trading at 20 cents. It would be trading at $2. That's the way the world works. I'm sorry to tell you this. The key to making money with these penny stocks is you kind of have to know the difference between something that's there's 3 categories. There's like the real deal. There's something which is like, it's like halfway real, or it's mostly real, but people think it's not real. And then there's something which is a complete promotion, like a Fugazi type of deal. Like something which is a scam. So there's a lot of money to be made in that middle area, with something which is, there's something really there, but people don't really believe it's real. It's very early, so it could go either way. And I think that's pharma drug. I mean, look, biotech, high risk, super risky. This company is preclinical. I mean, they're not at the FDA, the clinical trials yet. Everything is still in the lab. They're really, 10 months away from, phase 1 clinical trials. The lab data is very impressive. They're building value through the lab data. So actually, it's very, very undervalued based on the markets they're going after, based on the opportunity, based on what the results they've delivered so far. The other thing is also it's been de-risked because, again, with biotechs, the big thing is the safety data. And here's the other opportunity. Here's the big opportunity. This stock, up till now, most of the market has been in Canada. It's been a Canadian stock. Canadian investors don't understand biotech, especially Canadian retail investors. So it's undervalued to start with. We saw the same thing with TBP, by the way. So TBP, and people are saying, "Oh, this is the next TBP." They're saying because TBP, Tetra Biopharma stock we introduced at 14 cents, went to over 52 cents, I believe, in 6 weeks. I think it was 8 weeks, 2 months. So it was a triple. You had a triple in 2 months. And they're saying, pharma drug is like the next TBP. I wish it was. I really do wish it was, because that would be great. I mean, that would be a success. I mean, listen, let's be real here. Do you really care what the company does as long as the stock triples? I mean, seriously, let's not kid ourselves here. But yeah, look, TBP, it went to 52 cents. There was some management screw-ups. These things happen. I'm not blaming the management. They just did what they had to kind of do. But and they actually did. Look, they had a couple of screw-ups. They raised. I don't want to get into it, but yeah, they kind of went off the deep end. And we haven't worked with them in 6 months, so don't blame me for Tetra Biopharma. You had the opportunity. Again, all we do at Wall Street Report is we present you the opportunity. We give you the ground floor opportunity. What you do then is up to you. Okay, it's up to you. It's we're not asking. It's you get 100% of the credit, 100% of the risk, 100% of the reward. We're not asking you for any percentage or anything. It's all on you. So you had an opportunity to triple your money. If you didn't get out when it tripled, it's your problem, right? I mean, a lot of people, once a stock doubles, they pull out some of their principal. A lot of our stocks that went up 10x. Let's say peak Fintech. We introduced it at 70 cents post split. It goes up to $14. I told you guys, look, this company, we haven't worked with them. Once it was like $10, they kind of like, we don't need to do promotion, whatever. Okay, that's worked out real well for them. But anyway, look, I mean, you had an opportunity to get out at $7, $10. You could have made 10x times your money, and now the stock is pulled back. So, you know what? It's what can I tell you? What can I tell you? Yes, exactly. Personal opinion only, no official company information. Bigly Catalyst coming for Organic Garage. I mean, except Origin Foods, excuse me. Look, I believe, again, this is my opinion. I don't have any official information. I think the real catalyst, the thing the market that's really going to move is when they announce the 4 new stores. Matt has talked about, he said, look, when they announce, they're going to announce 4 at once, because it actually makes a lot of sense to do 4 at once without going into all the details. So when that, right now, nobody believes in that stock. Everybody thinks, oh, it's just a little bullshit company with a couple of grocery stores. Hey, even though they're doing 30 million, it's not going anywhere. But look, what's going to happen is when they announce those 4 new stores, people are going to wake up. They're going to wake up, because that all of a sudden means you got 60 million potential revenues. You got a growth right now. So now it's 120 million, 200 million valuation potentially once they get those stores open. 200 million divided by 50 million is $4 a share. $4 a share. Okay, so This thing is, those are the big catalysts. The CPG stuff, yeah, I know they're talking about it, great. They're going to do it, phenomenal, great. Okay. Personally, uh, I don't know. Look, the CPG, I think they have a great path to get there. They got all this, but it's still very early on. Like, there's no real, massive revenues. The stores are real revenues. I know everybody's thinking, oh, the CPG. My personal opinion, it's the stores that's the real value. The CPG stuff is great, but we don't know yet. It's too early. They haven't shown, let's call it, even 2 quarters of revenues. When they show revenues in the CPG business, that'll be great. To me, the value in OG is the store business. And I look at the CPG thing as like a massive free bonus. So that's like a free bonus, basically. Um, yes, 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 absolutely. I'm going to introduce you. We're going to, Mike Hunt. I'm going to give you a stock, actually. You know what? I'll skip ahead. Actually, no, I'm not going to skip ahead. I want to kind of build up the audience. I'm trying to get a couple of subscribers out of this YouTube thing. Yeah, I'm going to give you a stock in just a little bit that was previously as high as $10 a share, $10, which is now much, much lower. And I believe has a great setup to be a 10 bagger. And here's the great thing about this company. I'm not, look, the big, big unknown variable with these companies, this is the thing that's such a pain in the ass. This is the worst thing with these microcaps is the CEOs, to be honest. They could, look, with these stocks, you're betting on the jockey, right? And if you have a great story and if the jockey doesn't execute, if the jockey just screws up, you have a disaster on your hands. Like, look, Tetra Biopharma, TBP, frankly, that with a better jockey, that stock would have gone from that 14 cents. It could have gone to over $1 because it was set up and everything. There was some problems. Okay, and again, I don't want to. I'm not blaming that because he did what 90% of CEOs would have done. Okay, so when you're in that position, that's what the guy would have done. I'm not blaming it. The guy has to do. But the stocks that I'm going to be talking about right now, they got, I believe, the best CEO in the microcap space. I talked about this a little before. We've had a love-hate relationship a little bit, right? But look, this is the best CEO in the microcap. I am not worried about this guy. Okay, so this is something where you don't have to worry whether this guy is going to stop promoting. Look, we've had a couple of real disasters where you had stocks which were just when they're about to break out. All of a sudden, you had these knuckleheads that all of a sudden they get an idea in their head like, oh, hey, I don't need to do retail engagement, investor outreach anymore. And look what happened. Who am I talking about? Skylight Health, SLHG, CloudMD. By the way, those guys are great promoters. It was CloudMD, the doctor, Isam, brilliant guy, right? But what a dumb mistake to stop retail promote. I mean, and you haven't heard of him. The guy fell off the radar. This guy Pratt at Skylight, another guy. Great, I mean, really a brilliant guy, phenomenal promoter, great salesman, right? What a dumb mistake. I mean, to drop the retail. I mean, the guy's a retard. I mean, he should be really fired from the company, in my opinion, because that is an absolute disaster. But listen, it is what it is, right? So you don't have to worry about that with this company, and we'll be talking about it in a little bit because even though the CEO I'm referring to has not dealt with Wall Street Reporter in a little bit of time, but he's been doing everything possible to market the stock. So that shows you a track record of a guy who knows what needs to be done. So I'm going to talk about that stock in just a little bit. Yeah, look, Visby. I think Visby. I'll pull up the chart. I think Visby has at least another pop. I mean, the problem there is they're not promoting the stock the way they should be, and that's again, it's a CEO issue. You know what? It is a CEO issue. If Jay was on our live stream, for the last 3 months, if we would have done a couple live streams, that stock would be trading much much higher. I can guarantee you that. Okay, I guarantee you that. Um, yeah. So look, we haven't heard from him since January almost, and this is where the stock is. However, look, I think Visby is going to bottom out. There's enough of a following that it's going to come back. I think we got another shot at getting to $2. Um, I think we got a shot. It really kind of depends on the promotion. To be quite honest, I mean, it's really at this point for the next year or so. It's not the fundamental. I mean, look, sure, the fundamentals are important, but they got to promote the stock. Okay, if they don't promote the stock, it's not going to do as well. It's simple as that. Okay, very easy. Okay. I'm sorry, I got distracted here. Okay. Okay. PHRX, pharma drug. Okay. Great looking chart. We have this massive double bottom here. 4 cents, 4.5 cents. The stock has started to move already. We're getting action here. And when this stock breaks out above this moving average, we've had some nice moves. Really, actually, a very high percentage of the time. Shit. You know what? This is ridiculous, but almost 100% of the time. I mean, this is like a ridiculously accurate, like a really ridiculously accurate. Look at this. I mean, don't believe anything I tell you. Just this chart tells you everything you need to know. So it broke out of moving average here. It was 3 cents. It went to 12 cents. Okay. It broke below the moving average, and then it broke above the moving average at 4 cents. It went as high as 20 cents, 5x. It broke below the moving average, means time to sell. And then for the first time, it broke above the moving average in January. And this was a fake out signal. Okay, it was a bit of a fake out because it went from 4 cents to 6 cents. Well, yeah, 6 cents. Well, actually, no, was it 6.5 cents? Okay, 6 cents. Okay. Wow. So 50% move. That was the worst. That was the worst signal. So in all this history, I mean, based on what I'm looking at here, the absolute worst signal when it broke above the 50 moving average was a 50% move. The best ones were 200, 300, 500% moves. Now we are breaking out again above this moving average. We've had 3 consecutive closes. It's a weird looking chart. I know it's really weird, but it's stupid trading with penny stocks. But we've closed consistently above the 50-day moving average 3 days. To me, that is very, very bullish. I believe that PHRX, pharma drug, LMLLF, F for all our Americans, is ready for a massive move. When I say massive, I'm talking about from 3 cents to 30 cents, but realistically 25 cents plus. Next 4 weeks. Company has some phenomenal catalysts. I think it's a great setup. I mean, the chart, again, I'm not even talking about fundamentals. Forget about biotech. Forget about what. Look, I showed you the fact. These are the facts, 100% facts. Forget about. You don't have to believe me. Look at the data. The data. Every time the stock breaks above the moving average, it runs bigly. But you got to look at the Canadian chart. The U.S. chart, the data is not clean data. You got to look at PHRX, and that tells you the moving average is the key. Be long above it and short below it. Bottom line, okay? Don't believe me. Look at the data. Here's another cheap biotech. Again, you guys are asking me, oh, how do we get on the ground floor of these opportunities? I'm giving you the ground floor. I guarantee you 99% of the people watching this are going to completely not listen to this. They're going to ignore it. And then, I know for a fact that 6 months from now, when these stocks are trading at like 50 cents, a dollar, whatever it is, $2, um, everybody's going to be buying on FOMO, and that is going to be the absolute wrong time to buy, because I guarantee you, when these stocks, these biotechs do make those 20x moves, that's the time you want to be selling. You want to sell. Because there's always pullbacks in biotech. Always. I don't care what it is. There's always going to be disappointments. Things get way ahead of themselves. They pull back. We saw that with Cytodyne. We introduced that stock at 50 cents and went to $10. 20 bagger in 12 months. Took 12 months. They had a pullback. Now it's back to 50 cents. I mean, again, there's a whole different story with promotion. Another story. Let me go through a couple of the charts which I think are really looking good. Organic Garage. Visby's actually, I think Visby is in a good spot. I think we're building a base. They do need to start, pushing the stock. I mean, I've reached out to Jay a couple times. I think he's ducking me, whatever. Look, you know what? I don't care at this point. But yeah, this is kind of, I kind of feel bad because it's kind of a lost opportunity. I think they're really letting investors down because they're not promoting as they should be. But with patience, I think this is going to come back $2 probably. Let's go to Organic Garage. What else? Pharma Drug I talked about. So we get a couple of early stage stocks, which are still kind of early, new to our program, early days, not a lot of action going on. First Energy is a lithium miner. It's kind of early. I mean, the chart is, it's kind of neutral. I mean, I can't say it's looking bullish, to be honest. I mean, straight up and being very honest, based on fundamentals, I think this thing has a lot of upside. We've gotten a lot of U.S. interest since we started marketing it. Look, if you notice this is basically since we started, marketing the stock to our U.S. investors. We're getting volume in the U.S. But chart, I don't know. Okay, XTM paid. This thing is kind of a weird chart because it looked like it was ready to break out of this range, and now you have these two very negative kind of days closing, which is not good. So we might pull back a little bit. I think ultimately this thing is going to break out, and you could see like a $2 plus number in the next 3 months. I believe that's a very strong probability because again, you have this big trading range. What you're looking at, this pattern looks very, very similar to what you saw with PKK, Peak Fintech. You know what? I'll pull up the Peak Fintech chart just to give you. I mean, I don't know how to do the overlay. I probably should do it. Oh, you know what? Hang on a second. Nah, it's not going to work quite right, but I'll show you anyway. So Peak Fintech, let me just give you an example. So Peak Fintech, we introduced that right over here back in September 2020, 70 cents after the split. Kind of did nothing for about 2 months, started moving up, broke out. You had a consolidation for about 6 months in this range. Big consolidation. And then, I was, again, all you guys are watching these videos, you know how many times I said it's going to be breaking out. I mean, there were so many times that Peak Fintech could have broken out in this range over here back in last April, but it didn't. I mean, it really was prepared to go. It should have gone, but it didn't. It took 3 months longer. So I apologize. It took 3 months longer for the thing to go up 20x. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. I mean, Okay, so basically you had this big consolidation, and then boom, $14. I think we could see the very same thing happen with paid. XTM, this stock over here. Same exact chart pattern. It's the same pattern, really. Same exact pattern. Okay, let's get into okay, let me go a couple questions and we'll go into the good stuff. Hey, I like oil and gas. I think oil, look, I mean, based on who we have as president right now in the US, this is like the Nixon, not Nixon, oh God, I wish it was Nixon. It's like the Jimmy Carter administration. We're in for a very rough couple of years. We got like 2.5 more years with this idiot. And look, the world is going to go to hell in a handbasket. It's going to go to hell in a handbasket with Joe Biden. Look at what's going on. I mean, I don't want to get into politics, but I just want to let's look at kind of the reality. Let's look at the reality. Everybody hated Trump, but what did Trump do? Number one, there were no major. Trump did not start any wars. Okay, he actually destroyed ISIS. Does anybody remember ISIS? I mean, they were wreaking havoc in the Middle East. I mean, they could have taken over. Literally, ISIS could have taken over the Middle East. I mean, they killed, I don't know how many millions of people, rape, murder, mayhem in the Middle East. Without the U.S., I guarantee you they would have taken over Saudi Arabia. I mean, they're already taken over Iraq. I mean, yeah, they were going to take over the Middle East. And what did Trump, and look what was going on when was ISIS running wild? You had all the beheadings. Does anyone remember those beheading videos and everything? That was all through the Obama years. Obama, that's right, Barack Obama, who was, I mean, an illegitimate president, a guy who should never have been president legally. I mean, the guy was born in Kenya. We know for a fact his birth certificate, the Hawaiian birth certificate, was complete fugazi. I mean, the Hawaiian birth certificate was a fugazi. So, and we know the Hunter Biden laptop is 100% real. So you have Joe Biden is kind of the fruit of the poison tree. So you had a guy who was a fraudulent president. During Obama's presidency, let's go through the details. ISIS, a couple million people killed in the Middle East. Havoc going on around the world. Trump comes into office, totally wipes out ISIS in 12 months. When was the last time you heard of ISIS? You haven't heard of them in like 3 years, thanks to Donald Trump. What else does the guy do? Makes peace with North Korea. I mean, North Korea, during the Obama years or even before, there were, lobbing missiles, nuclear war. Everybody's, oh, this is going to be nuclear war. The guy's crazy. What happened? They made peace. What about the Israelis and the Arabs? I mean, this is something which everybody says, oh, this is never going to. I mean, there's a whole cottage industry, this whole Mideast peace bullshit industry, which has been going on for 40 years. You got all these bullshit diplomats. Nobody's ever been able to do anything. All of a sudden, what happens? Trump basically creates peace, where he started the process. You have actually a peace between the Israelis, the United Arab Emirates. I think it was Bahrain. Who else is in there? He's got Morocco, a couple of other countries, and he's got, I think, what's the other? He probably would have gotten the Saudis to sign on, but the Saudis, they were probably waiting to see, is the guy gonna, stick around to be president? They had that issue with, the guy who got chopped up into little pieces. There was little issues in Saudi Arabia, but look, Trump was a peacemaker. And look what happened when Biden came into office. Look, this is black and white. Contrast and compare. By the way, what was Putin doing when Trump was in office? Putin was behaving himself. When Obama was in office, what was Putin doing? He took over the Crimea. He was making trouble in Georgia and what's the other place? I don't know. No, Chechnya was before him. But look, the bottom line was, when Trump was in office, there was world peace. Biden, you got massive disaster in Afghanistan. Forget about the fact that, okay, you got 13, the whole withdrawal was a massive disaster. But look what's going on. I mean, you don't see this report on the news, by the way. You have the Afghanistan has fallen into massive poverty. You have people starving right now. You really have thousands of people who are dying of starvation from poverty. Um, it is a massive humanitarian disaster. Thanks to Joe Biden, by the way. What else has he done? Let's see. The Ukraine. Jeez, what about the Ukraine? Why would Putin invade the Ukraine? I mean, Biden is the guy responsible. I actually don't hold Putin responsible for the Ukraine thing because it's almost like Putin is kind of like it's almost like Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is like a drug addict, degenerate junkie, right? I mean, I'm sure he's a fun guy. He seems like a fun, cool guy. But look, if you put $20 of crack in front of Hunter Biden, the guy is going to go off on a bender. He's just a degenerate. You can't give a drug addict, an alcoholic, drugs or alcohol because they're just, no matter who it is, right? Putin is the same way. I mean, you can't, if you show weakness to that guy, he's going to take it. He has no choice. That's what he's got to do. I mean, the guy's like maybe gone off on a little bit of a bender with Ukraine. I mean, look, it's a horrible thing. I think Putin is actually a great guy for Russia. I mean, obviously at this point, like, the guy needs a bullet in the head. But it's Joe Biden's fault. It's really not Putin's fault. It's really Joe Biden. He's the guy that made this thing happen. And he actually was pushing Putin. If you looked at what he was saying, they're going to invade. He was pushing Putin into the invasion. So Joe Biden, there's thousands of people probably, I don't know. Okay. So we know there's been, 10,000 Russian soldiers killed at least, right? In the Ukraine, there's got to be, I don't know, I'm sure at least 10,000 plus civilians. So Joe Biden is basically has blood on his hands. He is an illegitimate president. The election was a fraudulent election. Joe Biden is an illegitimate president, but we're stuck with him right now. So what can we do? But oil and gas will go. But meanwhile, look, we got to make money with these penny stocks. So let's not talk about politics. We got to make the most of the situation right now. And I think the penny stocks are about to explode, just like they did with Jimmy Carter, another loser, mega loser president. Nice guy. Actually, no, he wasn't. He's a scumbag. Jimmy Carter was a scumbag, just like Joe Biden is a scumbag. Just these guys who you think they're nice guys. They're not nice guys. It's the guys who you think are scumbags, like Trump. Trump comes across like a complete scumbag, but he's actually a guy with a real heart and he loves people. Joe Biden, he's a fraud. He comes across like, oh, I care, I have empathy. Joe Biden is the ultimate scumbag, is a thief. He's a traitor to the United States. He's been getting payoffs from Russia, from China. Where else has he been getting? There's no end to it. Anyway, let me not get off on a tangent. I don't want to seem like this is not a political show. It's a stock show. Okay. Bottom line is we got to make money. During the Carter administration, there were some great moves in penny stocks. We got to make money right now with these stocks. It's actually, it's your duty and obligation to make the most of what you have available to you right now in life and whatever it is. So, it's these stocks right now. What can I tell you? I know the world it's a horrible situation right now. There's people dying in Ukraine. There's starvation in Afghanistan. There's all such happening worldwide. Look, there's always stuff going on in the world. You got to do just what you can do right now. Our obligation is to support the capital markets. I mean, again, it's obviously this is the motivation of greed to make money, whatever. But this is the thing that kind of makes the economic system work. It's kind of that, everybody's after their own self-interest, but that's really what, if for example, look, if you weren't greedy, right, you wouldn't, if you were not greedy, then, you wouldn't show up to work for the next month, right? And then let's say you do plumbing. Let's say you're a plumber, right? So you're a plumber, you say, hey, yeah, fuck it, I'm not gonna work anymore. I'm gonna go on vacation. All of a sudden, everybody's got stuffed toilets. They have no running water, and then they start dying of disease because plumbing and whatever or whatever. You guys get the idea. Let's say you're a brain surgeon. You say, hey, I don't need. Look at these doctors. Well, most doctors, quite frankly, they're out to make a buck, right? But because they're out to make a buck, you know, you get health care. They take care of you, you live longer, right? These biotech companies, these are the greediest people in the world, the biotech companies. But if they didn't exist, we'd be living in the Stone Ages. So it's a great the whole system. It's a great system. God has created the system. So let's make the most of what we have today, and let's make some money with these penny stocks. Speaking of which, Next Tech AR Solutions is making a massive comeback. We're going to be talking about Next Tech this week. This week, Next Tech will be returning. It's a stock we introduced Next Tech at. Actually, let me pull up the Next Tech chart. Let me pull up this chart. Hang on a second. This is. Stand by. Okay, Next Tech. Okay, so Next Tech is a stock we introduced back right here, August. I think it was August 2019. It was 40 cents. I don't, whatever. It doesn't really matter, right? Let's call it 40 cents, right? Let's call it 50 cents. Well, it was like 40 cents, whatever. Yeah, it was definitely 40 cents. So in a couple of months, it went to over $2.80 in a couple of months. Okay, so you had a 5x plus consolidation phase, a short report, it was from the guys at the Hindenburg Research. Now they're more famous, but that was one of their first attempts, and it was like a bullshit report, and we completely discredited them. But yeah, I mean, basically, Hindenburg was paid by a short seller to write a report. I mean, they were paid prostitutes essentially, writing this Fugazi report. But it had an effect on the stock, and the stock came down and bottomed out. Anyway, look what happened here. It went to $10. It was a 20 bagger. Was it 20 bagger? Wait, why am I calling it only a 10 bagger? Shit, I was. Wow, this is actually a 20 bagger. My math might have been completely wrong. This doesn't make any sense. Wait, if it was 50 cents, shit, I should. It's a 20 bagger. I apologize. I apologize to everybody profusely. Massive mistake here. Look at this. I've been for the last, I don't know how long I've been saying that Next Tech was only a 1,300% return, but it's actually been a 20 bagger. It was actually a 20 bagger stock. So I am sorry. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, anyway, bottom line is, here we are again. And I believe we're at the bottom. And if we're not at the bottom, we're very close. But look, listen, here's the reality. By the way, look at this move. Okay, so we're still below the moving average. Look, that's just the reality. We're still below the moving average. I think we're going to turn. So if you're buying the stock here, you're taking a bit of a risk. You'd be taking a bit of a risk. But let's see what happens. Let me just catch up with a couple of questions first. No, that Trump. No, 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 no. These guys, these psychedelic guys are mooch bums. Bunch of mooch bums. Um, yes. Okay. So next tech, you're gonna see. Oh shit! I'm sorry. The one psychedelic stock, which I think is gonna be huge, biotech stock. Again, very very cheap. Nova in Canada, NMLSFUS. Look at this chart. Massive, massive base. You had a previous high of $4. Yeah, split. It doesn't matter. Again, CBDT, same exact chart, same fucking chart. CBDT, it was a nickel with 250. What you're seeing with NM Nova Mentis, Nova in Canada, NMLSF is, I believe, the same thing. We're going to see could be a massive move. It's a 10-cent stock, 9 cents, not even 10 cents. It's cheap. NMLSF for the Americans. By the way, our US campaign is going to kick off this week. So you're going to start seeing, I think, a little bit of volume, some action in the US. Take it for what it's worth. Anyway, look, 6 cents right now. You've seen where this thing traded very quickly. Big moves. Nova Mentis, I think the two best opportunities, big bang, massive upside, big risk. These things could go to zero, but yeah, I mean, what are you going to lose? You're going to lose a couple pennies here. Not a lot of downside. I mean, what is it going to go from 6 cents to 3 cents? You're going to lose 3 cents? Could be. But the upside could be $2. So you got a 50, 100x upside. 50 to 100x, that's asymmetric. That is what I love. I love asymmetrical setups where you're risking, I don't know, 20 cents and you could make $20. Not in this case, it's not 20, but it's like $2. So you have 100 to 1 almost. You do that a couple times over and over, big upside, big upside. Those are big winners. Yes. Okay. So next tech is coming back this week. It's going to be, I believe, a massive. We're going to see a massive move in next tech. I think next tech has in it, right, built in the possibility of 100 bagger. You know what? Look, they got the AR, the models, all this. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. With any of these companies, you're making a bet on the CEO, okay? You're making a bet on the CEO, a guy who knows how to pivot, take advantage of opportunities. I talk about this over and over again. You saw Evan Gappelberg. He did it multiple times. You saw what he did when the stock was 50 cents. He did the M&A stuff. He took over companies. Some deals worked, some didn't work. But you saw how the stock moved. I mean, this is a guy who understands, who knows what needs to be done. And you know what? They've been pushing that stock. I mean, he has not been hiding. Evan Gappelberg has not been, hiding out in a cave like, the guy from Skylight, MD. I can go down the list. He's not been hiding out, okay? So he's been doing the right thing by the shareholders, which is important. There's been that, what is it called? Accountability. What's the other word that, transparency. This is the word that all the millennials love, transparency. So yeah, if you want to see transparency, accountability, that's next tech. It's not Skylight. It's not CloudMD. It's not, I don't want to knock companies, but yeah. The guy's done the right thing. Look, we've I've had my ups and downs, Devin. This is look, it's almost like a band. It's like like a rock band. There's creative differences, egos, this that gets in the way, and then they reunite, and then they go into massive. It's like I'm trying to think. The only band. I mean, I don't know I know there was a bunch of these bands in the '60s that had these breakups. That's not my Guns N' Roses. Okay, Guns N' Roses. You had a great. I mean, it was the ultimate band in the '80s into the early '90s, and for whatever reason, they just kind of, they couldn't deal with each other for after a while, and then now they're back together. And it's tremendous. I mean, what other bands were there? Not the Rolling Stones. Was it the Eagles? I think the Eagles or whatever. But yeah, I'm thinking of Guns N' Roses was the best. Anyway, so what you're going to see now is going to be like the Guns N' Roses tour, basically. Now that we're back with Next Tech, we're back on the 10-bagger path. But not even 10-bagger. I'm not here to just do a $10 stock. I mean, look, we've done that before. I'm not interested in that. I'm here for the 100X. 100X. 100. So it's 1 and 2 zeros behind. 100X, $100 stock. How long is it going to take? 2 years. I believe it's going to take 2 years to get there. Again, let's go into all the details later, but yeah. What can I tell you about Trip and Red Light? Look, those guys are just mooch bums. I mean, you haven't heard from them in months. Why? I don't know. You tell me why. Call them up, Kevin. Kevin, call up. Was it Todd and what's the other guy? Matt. I say, hey, why are you guys hiding out? Why are you guys hiding out? What'd you do with all the money? Why are you hiding? Listen, I'm not here. This has nothing to do with this. I'm not trying to be antagonistic, but my goal is very simple as this. When I get involved with a stock, I want to see a 10X, 20X. I want to see stocks, I want to see wins. I want to see wins. I'm not in the pump and dump business here, okay? And, half the thing relies on the CEO. I expect the CEOs to perform, okay? Which means my version of performance, not just the business, not just that, but you got to perform in terms of, get the story out to investors. You can't go into hiding. You got to be promoting that stock. That's your job. As a CEO, your job is to promote the stock, maximize shareholder value. And you maximize shareholder value by telling the story to as many investors as possible. That's what you got to do. That's your job. You want to be, you don't want to do that? Go private. Private companies don't have to do that. No problem. We'll see. No, I have nothing. I haven't heard anything from Lisa. Trump. Yeah, listen, that was smart. Yeah, I mean, listen, the U.S. we got like a deep state, basically. The CIA, the FBI. Like the FBI is basically like, the kind of like some sort of left wing. What do you call it? It's a. I mean, look. If you want to see what the FBI really is, J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover was a cross-dresser, okay? The guy would dress in women's clothing. And was he gay, not gay? I don't know. He was basically a lowlife. I mean, he was essentially trying to blackmail different political figures. I think he was after, what is it? We got, he was involved with, what's his name? Who's the guy? Not Malcolm X. What's the other guy? Martin Luther King. He was blackmailing Martin Luther King. Now, maybe legitimately or not, I don't know. But he was involved with all sorts of nonsense. I mean, so the FBI, again, it's the fruit of a poison tree. J. Edgar Hoover was a complete lowlife. And that's what you have. I mean, look, here's the thing, though, with governments, politics, part of it is, the governments are corrupt by nature. I mean, it's just the corruption happens. It's, so you have a choice. I mean, you can either live with anarchy. You can have anarchy, like you have all these, what do they call these libertarians? I know that in the US they have to get this whole libertarian movement, and those guys are they're basically anarchists. So the problem with those guys is, okay, you got no government, you have no government, whatever, and then you got no plumbing, you got no electricity, everybody is out from the side. Unfortunately, you got to have these like scumbag, degenerate politicians. I mean, that's part of that's their job, right? That's kind of their job. I mean, who does, if you look at it anywhere in the world, anybody in politics, any country you look at, generally the people who are running governments, I mean, it takes a certain kind of low life person. They got to be like basically scumbags. It's like just the way it is. But what's the alternative? What's the alternative to have no civilization, to have anarchy? So we're in a great system actually when you think about it. We're living in a great time, right? Uh, no, I'm actually from the Ukraine. Well, it was a Soviet, when I left, it was the Soviet Union. I'm actually from Kiev. So no, I actually, listen, I mean, I think Putin, for what it is, he's a Russian patriot. He's gotten a little bit crazy, but if it was, Biden is the guy who's at fault. I mean, Biden, if it wasn't for Biden, Putin would be behaving himself. He's just like a degenerate drug addict. That's what Putin basically is, except, he's acting out in the Ukraine. At some point he's gonna. I mean, look. The problem is, what do you do now, right? I mean, what's the guy gonna do? I mean, who's is it better? I mean, what is it better? Is it better to replace him with somebody? Who's going to replace him? Is it going to be somebody? You got like kind of this weird situation there. Who's next in line? It could be much worse than this guy. I mean, this guy is actually, I mean, the reality is when he took over Russia, right? Russia was in absolute chaos in the 90s. It was absolute chaos. He got that thing straightened out. And the country prospered. Look, the guy's got his own issues. The country prospered. The problem is, when you have that mentality, he's almost like a little bit like a Napoleon, a little bit. Like people think of Napoleon, they have these good, they think of Napoleon in a positive light these days. But Napoleon was really no different than Putin. What did Napoleon do? I mean, he wanted to take over all of Europe. For some reason, why do we have this positive image of Napoleon? I mean, Napoleon was not that much. I mean, how much different was he than Hitler? I mean, not much different. He wanted to take over all of the world, right? But we have this positive image of Napoleon. I mean, and Napoleon seems like a cool guy. I mean, Putin seems like a very nice guy. But look, at the end of the day, you have these guys that need you need to have. You got to have the U.S. needs to be strong. You got to have a guy like Trump running the country, and really, I think he should come back as maybe a dictator. Maybe this democracy thing doesn't seem to be working for the U.S. You might need to have Trump come in as emperor for life. Maybe his family can, could be a whole little dynasty, and great things can happen. I mean, I remember, listen, when Trump was in office, gas prices were cheap. We had a great booming economy. We had no inflation. Everything was going great. You just had a bunch of complainers. Everybody was saying, oh, Trump is this, he's that, he's Hitler. He's literally Hitler, all this crazy stuff. And now look what's going on. So I think anybody would love to have that guy back. Yes, there you go. Listen, Cathie Woods is absolutely right. We're seeing grand floor opportunities in penny stocks. I think much better than the Cathie Wood stocks is our penny stocks, which give you this massive torque to the upside. I mean, if you look at Nova, NOVA, Nova in Canada. I mean, this is a stock that could be what is it? Got less than a 10 million market cap? Easily, this could be a 200 million. You could have a 20x. All we need is some good lab data, which is going to be coming up in the next, by July. You really have a path to a 20 bagger with this stock very, very fast. The great thing about biotech is, It's a little bit like mining stocks. We got a lot of mining people who follow these things. It's a little bit like mining. Look, with mining, if you hit a couple of drill holes, boom, you could have 100 bagger. Biotech, same thing. The difference is it's more de-risked because we kind of know kind of the stuff we're dealing with. It's not like a mystery. I mean, what these guys are dealing with is essentially they've had some data which shows us a good degree of success with pharma drug, even better because with PHRX in Canada, you got this. What do you call? Let me pull up the American chart. I'm getting part of dealing with Canadians here. All right, so Nova Mentis, right? So what you got here is excuse me, not PHRX, LLF. Okay, so this thing is actually de-risked because the big issue in biotech is toxicity. Is this thing gonna kill people before you get into phase one? They want to know, hey, is this going to kill people before you get into phase two? Phase one is safety. Phase two is you get into efficacy. Here we know that this cephratine, this is the compound, it's got a 70-year history in Japan of safety. Nobody's died. I mean, it could be somebody died, but more or less, it's pretty safe. So you got a 70-year history of safety. We've seen efficacy. So you got a very high probabilities of this being, I believe, successful. And by the way, how did they get this? Okay, so cephratine, they licensed this from, what's the name of the lab? Essentially, this organization was taking cephratine, reformulating with like 10 times bioavailability as a treatment as an antiviral for Ebola. It was a contract with the U.S. Army. So the U.S. when the whole Ebola thing was happening, they kind of hired these guys and said, "Hey, work on this." And then I think I guess the Ebola thing went away, and they said, "Hey, we don't need to do it." That's what happened. Listen, that's government for you. But yeah, they got some great data, and what you have with this thing is you got the safety. You've seen efficacy now with their reformulation going to work on what is it? They're going after a couple of indications. One is the prostate cancer, which is it's an anti-cancer thing. They got one for esophageal cancer, and they're doing the antiviral. Which, by the way, the antiviral. I mean, this could be. Imagine this. So this thing has a history of being used for antiviral in Japan, but at a very small bioavailability. Now it's been reformulated, right? You got this pill, it's got 10 times the efficacy, essentially. Could this be like a turnkey antiviral for, COVID? You got Ebola for, there's 200 viruses. How do I know this data? Because that's what the guy from what's the company that's doing the shots, the vaccines? Moderna. So the Moderna CEO in his last conference call, he was talking about, hey, Moderna has a massive opportunity. We got 200, known viruses out there that are very, dangerous. You got COVID, SARS, this, and they're always mutating. They're coming and going. What if there was one pill which had a very strong efficacy for these viruses? Could it be, the pharma drug? Could it be cephratine, PD001? I mean, we've seen some, possibilities with Ebola. We've seen COVID. You have no toxicity. So, I mean, this thing could be a billion-dollar opportunity. Listen, here's the reality with these biotech stocks. As an investor, the way I would trade it, and again, this is a trade, it's not an investment. You don't want to hold this for 20 years. I mean, it might work out, you never know, but realistically, you're trading the perception here. So, right now nobody really cares about the stock, nobody knows about it, so it's very, very cheap. All of a sudden, what happens is And here's the way these biotech stocks trade. Here's how any stock trades. All of a sudden, what happens is you have some situation happens, you get a little bit of data that shows a very positive efficacy against, X, Y, or Z, against the viruses or the cancer or whatever it is. All of a sudden, that opens people's imagination. Wow, this could be big. And then people kind of extrapolate that to think, wait, what if this can be a treatment for all these other viruses? If they start to think that, you have a multi-billion-dollar valuation. So that's the way I see this opportunity. You want to get in here at a very cheap valuation where nobody cares about this, and be positioned to blow out of the stock at a time when people's imagination starts running wild. And, before all the clinical data comes out, which could be, several years down the road. So, that's the way these biotech stocks work. You got to buy them when they're, when the blood is, running in the streets, and you got to sell them when people are, crazy with FOMO and they think it's going to do everything. So, yeah, the bottom line is the stocks which I believe have the most upside right now. There's bang for the buck. Pharma drug, LMLF for the Americans, NMLSF, Nova Mentis, Nova in Canada, NMLSF for the Americans here. Huge upside. I mean, look at this chart. It tells you what the possibilities are. It's a 6-cent stock that could be $3. 50 bagger. In this week, we will see the return. Nextech. I think Nextech is right around the bottom over here. Let me draw you a little trend line. Boom. That's basically, by the way, does this trend line look a little bit similar to what I showed you with Organic Garage OG last week? Origin Foods, I should say. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. So I think we're going to be bouncing off here, and you want to watch this moving average, which is around 90. Let's call it $1 US. No, let's make it $1.10. $1.10 US. And by the way, this is a stock that's, we're talking about a couple pennies. Back in the day, this thing was trading $1, $2 a day. The swings were $1, $2. It wasn't 10 cents. It was $2 swings. I think we're gonna be ready for some massive moves with Nextech. Huge moves. This is why I'm excited to be back. I mean, look, it's a stock that look, I mean, I was kind of waiting for things to kind of align. I mean, last year was a little bit overpriced. It got ahead of itself, $10 back last, October, $7 US. And now it's undervalued. I believe this thing is undervalued based on the opportunity. I think we're going to see probably a 20 bagger here, maybe 30. This $25 a minimum. So 30x from here, we can see a $25 stock in the next year. And if things work out, this could be a $100 stock. I mean, when I say $100, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, and that number is purely not based on what they have right now. That number is purely based on what I see as the possibility. Because look, you're making a bet on a CEO. I think this guy is the best guy in the business. Very similar to, I've used this example many times. There have been great CEOs who took companies that had basically nothing, and they turned them into massive billion-dollar opportunities. I'll give you one of the examples. Famous example is Time Warner. Steve Ross, for all you kids out there, Google Steve Ross, Time Warner. There was a book written about this guy called, I think it was called Master of the Game. Master of the Game. And basically, Steve Ross was a guy who was, I mean, the guy was basically a hustler. I mean, he was, I think he took over a funeral home. He was working for his in-laws. They had a funeral, it was a funeral home, and he was hired as a funeral. The guy was a funeral director. I mean, imagine this: the guy started off as a funeral director, was a very ambitious guy, and he did, he saw things bigger than just that, and he saw an opportunity to go public, and this is crazy, but so they were going to take the funeral home public. And then at the same time, they merged this parking lot business, which was basically involved with a mob. I mean, that's the reality. It was vaguely mob related. This parking lot, Kidney Systems. I mean, parking lots in New York. And this is a new company based in New York. Parking lots in New York City they were all basically affiliated with the mob. They had mob protection, this or that. I mean, so I think that was an issue when they were in public because they had to give payoffs to them up. So it was cash trading hands, and there was some little issues they kind of had to cover up, whatever. But interestingly, so he had these parking lots and funeral homes, but the guy was ambitious. He saw things really. The guy was a brilliant guy. And next thing, he bought some other company, and then I forgot what the next thing was, but one of the deals maybe didn't work. Then he bought some real estate, and next thing you know, he buys Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers, the studio, the ones who made was it Bugs Bunny? Warner Brothers, he made all the great films, whatever it was. And from there, they went on a roll, and they bought other things, and they bought Atari. I mean, basically, Steve Ross was the guy responsible for video games. I mean, they bought Atari, and Atari, that was the first video game thing, with the joystick and all that. Then they bought Time. They bought Warner Time Magazine. It became a massive multi-billion-dollar company, and the problem was, the stock went up. I mean, might have been 1,000, but it was a huge. One of the great success stories. And by the way, what's interesting, it was a success story that started in the 60s and went through the 70s. Even during the Carter administration, during the worst times of America, during the Carter era, Time Warner was very successful. So I think it's a very positive for Nextech. And the big mistake with Time Warner was that they merged with AOL, which was another guy who was a great con man. The guy who ran AOL, they merged. It was a bad, because it was the peak of the internet. But anyway, they merged with AOL. The thing blew up. They hired another idiot CEO. Who was the guy? Richard Parsons was a complete loser, and went downhill. But bottom line is, Steve Ross, brilliant guy, took something from, imagine this, a funeral home in a parking lot into, massive global media conglomerate, billions of dollars. I think he got the same thing with Nextech, with the CEO of Nextech, Evan Gappelberg. I think he's like a Steve Ross type of guy. And you got that, I think, the same type of upside here. I mean, you have right now the AR business. I don't know. Maybe he's going to turn into something else a year from now. Very possible. And all of a sudden, you could have something huge. It's very important to bet on a jockey, somebody who really is ambitious, who wants to succeed. I mean, I think the big problem with a lot of these microcap CEOs is these guys are afraid of success. I mean, how many times have you seen this happen with these companies? Like, stock goes up 10X, and then, the CEO kind of says, oh, okay, I've had enough. I'm going to, only deal this, they kind of disappear off the radar. You saw that happen with, shit, I don't want to like insult. I'll tell you who happened. CBDT, Skylight, CloudMD, who else? Fans, I mean, I can go through a whole list, right? I think ultimately the problem with those things were those guys who were afraid of success. They weren't afraid of failing. They were afraid of like succeeding too much because look, it's difficult when all of a sudden your net worth goes from a couple $1 million maybe to 100 million. Might create mental problems. But when you have a guy who really is super ambitious, who wants to really maximize their time on the planet, who really wants to make the most of themselves and their business, which I believe is evident next. You don't have to worry about that. I think there you really have something with like I don't even care what the business is. It's almost like the guys at Airbnb. The investors in Airbnb. Airbnb. Those guys really started off, I think, selling cereal. They had some like retarded business plan, which was like completely stupid. But they were very sharp guys, and they somehow they stumbled into renting out like their couch, and then they think, hey, and then they figure, hey, we can scale this into what became Airbnb. But their original business model was essentially selling some sort of cereal online. And so that's why you got to bet on the jockey, not the business or the business plan. And those guys turn out to be absolutely brilliant. You could say that about, I'm trying to think, what other tech companies, Airbnb was like that. Who else is very similar? There's a bunch of other examples. I'm giving you different examples. Anyway, bottom line is, we got some incredible opportunities coming up. I think we're at the bottom of the cycle. Finally, it's been a year. We've been in a 1-year bear market. We're at the bottom. It's bottoming out right now. We've probably seen the worst of it. You might see another couple of weeks. Again, I said this back in January, I think it was. I expect a massive bull market to start in May. May is going to be when things are going to start going crazy, and the summer is going to be off the hook, as the kids say. We're going to see a massive bull market in the summer. You don't want to take a vacation this summer, believe me. With that said, thank you, and I will see you later this week. We got a bunch of great live streams coming up, including Next Tech, AR Solutions, our next potentially 100 bagger, minimum 10 bagger. I would say 20 or 30 bagger, because at this point it's got to go, $25. I mean, and I'm going to highly encourage Evan to split the stock. I mean, as soon as that stock goes to $10, split it back so it goes to $5. We want to keep it cheap so that it's attractive for the retail. So this could be, easily be, again, $30, $50 stock. But tune in later this week when we introduce the Next Tech story, other things. Again, any of these stocks can go to zero. Do your own due diligence. Don't believe anything I say. There you go. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I will see you all on the next live stream.